I'm Karine Vin, and I will present you the work of one of the main core work packages of Best-ReMaP, which is dedicated to reformulation and processed food monitoring. Yes, so first of all, I would like to present you briefly the ANSES team dedicated to the project. So we have 6 people working on Best-ReMaP, including 3 of them working full-time for the coordination of our activities. The session about reformulation will be organized as follows. First of all, I will present you the OCALI model, which will be implemented in several countries during Best-ReMaP. We will also discuss the results of JAMPA and then go into the details of the action plan and the results of the work package 5 of Best-ReMaP. After that, I will give the floor to Eva Grammatikaki, who will present you the FEBOL database. And then Wolfgang Ahrens from Penn will present you surveillance and policy evaluation. Isabelle Rollier from DG Santé will present the EU Code of Conduct on responsible food business and marketing practices. And as you already know, Stephanie will moderate and comment on this session. Francesco has said that reformulation is one of the main actions to improve the quality of the food offer, and it is more and more important taking into account the fact that we can observe an increasing consumption of processed and ultra-processed food all over Europe. The problem is that even if a lot of countries have consumption and composition data at generic level, for example, all the countries have the composition of an apple or a sponge cake, for example, the issue is that we don't have such information at the brand level. And taking into account the development of processed food, it is now absolutely necessary to have information at the branded and subcategory level in order to be able to qualify the quality of the food offer. The solution found in France was the implementation of a specific monitoring tool in 2008, which was called OCALI. This tool allowed us to gain knowledge about the nutrition quality of the food offer and also to follow the evolution of this quality over time. That has created a virtuous circle and encouraged reformulation among the industry members, and that has also given all the data, all the information that our governments should have needed to decide what was the best nutrition policy to deploy, and for example, to give some thresholds that could be implemented. The question is how to encourage new countries to implement such a monitoring tool and how to encourage them to continue the monitoring even after the end of some specific European project. And that will be one of the main objectives of the work package 5 of Best-ReMaP. So I will begin to present you the OCALI model, which will be implemented in the different countries. So OCALI was created in 2008, and it is by Public Finance, and it covers all kinds of processed food that are split in our codification system in 30 food categories. To date, we have more or less 800 food products in our database. The objective and outcomes of this database are the following. We are now able to collect and analyze the nutritional data of the main part of the products available on the French market. We have also able to monitor the nutritional quality over time, since all the food sector are collected at a given time and then collected after 3 or 4 years. So we can follow up the evolution and see if the products are evolving in the right or the wrong way regarding the nutritional qualities. We also assess collective agreements. So when the French authorities are deploying collective agreements with some food industries or some professionals, we can follow the evolution of the products and see if the commitments have been met. And the last mission of OCALI is now to follow the deployment of the Nutri-Score, which is a simplified nutrition labeling system, which can be also a good action to help the consumer to make the good choice, sorry, when buying their food purchase. A first step of the expansion of OCALI was the JUMP-UP project. It was a joint action implemented between September 2015 and November 2017. 26 countries were involved. And the objective of the work package 5, which was already about food reformulation, was to implement the OCALI model in two pilot countries, which were Austria and Romania. And this exercise was dedicated to soft drinks and breakfast cereals only, in order to see if it was possible to implement such a tool in other European countries. The main observations that were made during this project were the following. We have observed that we have a high variability for sugar content for some subcategories among the soft drinks, for example, but the conclusion were also the same for breakfast cereals. We have also observed that when you compare the sugar content of a given family of products between the three countries, you can have significant differences. And these kind of differences have been observed for 6 subcategories out of the 14 subcategories studied for soft drinks, meaning that the nutritional quality of the food offer is completely different from one country to another. This difference can be due to several parameters. First of all, we have analyzed that the food offer is completely different in the 3 countries. We have a different segmentation of the market, and we have observed that we have very few common references, even in relatively close countries. Secondly, we have also observed that the same product or family of product can have a different definition. For example, the lemonades don't have the same definition in France and in Austria, explaining that the mean content of sugar of lemonades in France and Austria is completely different. In addition to that, we have different characteristics even within a subcategory of products. So that was the first observation. We have a very high variability of sugar content, but it's also true for fat, for example, for the breakfast cereals. And so even if you consume, for example, chocolate breakfast cereals, you can have cereals with a very high sugar content and some other with a more or less sugar content. And at the end, we have also observed that we can have a different composition even for the same reference, meaning that the same product sold by the same industry members can have a different composition if you buy it in France or if you buy it in Romania, for example. The conclusion of all this observation was that it is absolutely necessary to have a monitoring tool managed by the public authorities to qualify the quality of the food offer and to follow the impact of the nutritional policy developed, but not only at the country level, but also at the brand level, because you can have a completely different composition of a product coming from one brand or from another. So as said, the offers varies greatly depending on the country, and even the composition of the same products can be different. So you have to be very specific and you have to follow the nutrition composition at a very specific and detailed level in order to have a complete overview of the situation and the nutritional quality of the food offer. The exercise realized during this pilot study has also demonstrated that it is possible to implement the OCALI model in European countries, and that's what was decided to do at a greater scale in other European projects. As said by Moika, we had then the UMEO project covering 16 countries and all food categories, and now Best-ReMaP covering 19 new countries and 5 food categories. We now focus on the Best-ReMaP results. So first of all, the outcomes that are expected from the work package 5 of Best-ReMaP are the following. We will have a complete overview of the nutritional quality of the 5 food categories in the 19 participating countries. For the first time, it will be possible for us to make comparison between the countries because the data will have been gathered exactly with the same methodology and with the same food classification. So it will be possible to compare the results. We will also be able to identify the best formulation in order to encourage the manufacturers to improve the nutritional quality of the products. And we will also provide significant data that will be shared through a public European database hosted by the JRC, and that will give all the information and the tool needed for the different governments to adapt their nutrition policies. The working plan of the Work Package 5 is the following. First of all, it was necessary to define the methodology. So to define the food categories that will be prioritized. As I said before, we will focus only on 5 food groups because the time and resources allowed for the Work Package 5 don't allow us to cover all the food supply. After that, we are working on new technology and digital sources in order to improve the effectiveness of our data collections. We will also disseminate the methodology of OCALI. So we have recodified some pre-existing data in 6 participating countries. This work is already done and will set the basis of the comparison for these countries. We have produced guidelines that are now experimented through the first data collections. And we have begun to constitute the European database with the JRC by exchanging about the structure and the type of data that you would like to put in this database. The first snapshot is now implemented in 5 different countries. The data collection will take place until July 2022, and then we will have a step of data treatment until November 2022. After that, we will do the implementation of the second snapshot for the countries which already have pre-existing data. So we will have 14 concerned countries. We will have same thing, step of data collection and then a data treatment. And in addition to the production of basic statistics, we will realize some trend assessment to assess the evolution over time for some countries. We will evaluate the impact on nutrient intake for a couple of countries and also make some comparison. All that will be realized at the very end of the project. I will now present you the first result of Work Package 5. So unfortunately, the main result will be available only at the end of the project with the results of the data collection, the comparison and the assessment of the evaluation of the impact on the nutrient intake. What I can present you today is the process of selection of the 5 priority food groups and the presentation of this list of groups. So the priority food groups have been identified by the following step. First of all, we have identified the main contributors for the intake of 4 main nutrients, which are sugar, fat, saturated fat, and salt. We have made the exercise for 3 populations and for 18 countries. The intake was calculated as follows. We have multiplied the consumption data by the composition data. The consumption data are coming from the EFSA comprehensive database. We have used the data from 18 countries and 3 populations, children from 3 to 9 years, adolescents and adults. And we have combined that with 3 national composition databases coming from France, Estonia, and the Netherlands. After this exercise, we have been able to make a rank of the different food categories for each country, each nutrient, and each population. For example, here you have the ranking for the intake of sugar in France with the French data, and that gives you a rank of the different food categories. We have then populated the rank for the different countries and established a global rank for all the countries together. And populating all together the different nutrients and the different population, we obtain a list of 19 food categories, which contribute the most to the intake of sugar, fat, saturated fat, and salt for the 3 population groups. As an observation, we have seen that the results are similar with the 3 composition datasets. We have slight differences, but the 19 food categories coming in the first global rank are the same. The last part of the selection was the choice of the 5 priority food groups that we want to study in Best-ReMaP. So the point of entry was the list of the 19 food categories. We have then discussed and identified the pre-existing data that we have in the participating country, including data from UREMO and JAMPA. We have also taken into account the possibility to reformulate the products. For example, fruit juice can be a significant contributor to the intake of sugar, but it can't be reformulated if they were only constituted by fruit juice. And we have also taken into account the different wish of countries, for example, depending on their priority or national programs. Taking all that together, we have been able to establish a list of 5 food groups, which are bread products, delicatessen meat, soft drinks, breakfast cereals, and dairy products. So yes, we have just checked that these 5 food categories contribute significantly to the total diet, and also check that all socioeconomic classes will be covered, and especially the more vulnerable ones. So the data collected for these 5 food categories will be gathered in the common GRC database. So I give the floor to the next speaker.